An entitled old jerk walks up to my 4-year-old daughter and steals her stuffed animal right out of her hands at a convenience store. And I'm honestly still in shock that this guy actually did that to us. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few days ago, and I can't believe I actually have a story to share. So I was standing in line at our local corner market with my daughter when this entitled jerk in front of us turns around, sees my daughter's favorite stuffed animal, and proceeds to walk right up to her and take it out of her hands and start walking away. This stuffed animal, her monkey from IKEA, goes with us literally everywhere. She's had it since she was a baby, and since she just started school, I've brought it with me to pick her up. She just finished her first week, so I let her pick out a piece of candy from the store to celebrate. Anyways, this jerk was walking away with her monkey, I guess trying to make some kind of joke, and she looks at me with the biggest tears welling up in her eyes. I want to yell at this guy, but instead, I smiled at my daughter, and I said, tell him that's not his and to give it back. It's not nice to take stuff that doesn't belong to us. Well, she instantly lights up and turns to him and says just as loudly, that is mine, give it back. He then turns around and is like, oh, I thought you found him for me, can I have him? So I then give my girl a nod, and she says again very loudly, that is not yours, give him back to me right now. Well, after that show, he does exactly that and resumes his lurking. Now, I was really pissed off. First off, I was alone with my 4-year-old daughter, and this guy, although he was older, was like 6'3", and I'm literally 5'1". He literally did not say a word to us. He just turned around and walked up to us and took the monkey out of her hands. The clerk behind the counter was a young guy too, and he was just laughing, which made me even more angry. I know it's not his responsibility or anything like that, but we were the only other customers, and it just seemed like making us uncomfortable wasn't an issue. I'm still very pissed off, and I've told some of my mom friends who said that they would be pissed as well. This little market is right around the corner from my house, and one of my friends said that she would have taken a picture of him and posted the story to next door or something like that, and I wish I would have, but it happened so fast. The crazy mom in me wants to go back and hopefully bump into him, just so I can tell him how disrespectful and really uncomfortable the whole thing was. But I also don't want to put myself in a position of conflict with some other random man. I mean, what is wrong with these people? What kind of idiot thinks it's okay to approach a young child and just take their stuff as a joke? We do not know you, and you have no idea what we're going through. It's honestly just all so baffling to me, and I really hope I never deal with this guy ever again. Let me tell you something right now, that is some creepy behavior. That guy had some nefarious intentions in my opinion, and he did not go up to that kid for random reasons just to try and like make a joke with them. Which also, by the way, is really freaking weird. You don't know that kid, and you definitely have no reason to go up to a child and steal their stuffed monkey and then run off. Like, what is that about? That is seriously so weird. And it's especially awful because this happened to your 4-year-old daughter. Like, why would someone do something like that? That is like some straight up bully behavior. And what about the cashier? Like, seriously, how useless were you? You sat there laughing the entire time, and sure, I can get that side of it, where you're thinking to yourself, okay, I don't get paid nearly enough to deal with this garbage. But if I saw something like that, especially geared towards a child, I would be like, buddy, you've got to go. Get out of my store. Like, that's weird behavior. No one should have to put up with that. But I also think the way you handled this with your daughter was perfectly done. You showed her that not only can she stand up for herself, but she can also speak up if something bad happens to her when you're not around. That is so valuable for a kid to know, especially if you get like separated for some reason. She now knows that she can speak up and make a scene, especially if some stupid old jerk is being creepy towards her. So truly, I hope you never deal with this guy ever again. But you know what? If you do see him again, be sure to have that phone ready and take a picture of this guy, because weirdos like that absolutely deserve to be embarrassed. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for having a breakdown after a friend of my boyfriend left me out of one of their game nights and refused to allow me to even show up and watch? Because right now, I am seriously hurting, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for about a year now. Now, my boyfriend, who we will call Steven, is 31 years old, and I'm a 29-year-old female. Steven and his sister, who we will call Rowan, are friends with a couple who they play D&D and board games with. Since dating Steven, I've met them a few times and joined them in dinners. Now, I was aware that the wife, who we will call Lily, and Steven had slept together casually in the past, but I honestly wasn't bothered by it. Recently, they hosted a game night and only invited Steven and Rowan. I work irregular hours and only have one day off a week, which is typically when Steven and I get to spend any time together. I felt hurt and confused about not being invited because, in my experience, partners are usually included in social events, and I've always done the same for others. I told Steven how I felt, explaining that I was stressed out from work, and for reference, I have an emergency response type role, and it was a rough week. And because of that, I did not want to spend the night alone. Well, he spoke with Lily, who then said that they only wanted the 2 siblings because it was a 4-person game. Steven then put me on the phone with Lily and pushed me to tell her about my mental health struggle and why I wanted to come, even if just to watch. And so I did just that, even though I'm an extremely private person and never allow vulnerability outside of close relationships. She said that she sympathized but still refused, and suggested that I find other coping mechanisms, like using a weighted blanket instead of relying on Steven for support. Well, I ended the call feeling upset, and I had a meltdown afterwards. I told Steven that I did not want to visit Lily and her husband again, but encouraged him to go and enjoy himself. I did not want to appear clingy and keep him from his friends, even though I was really struggling emotionally. With their explanations that exclusivity at such events is normal, I'm questioning whether I overreacted. I'm worried that their reason might be personal or discriminatory. And for reference, I'm of a different race and culture than all 3 of them. Or maybe it's just the fact that they don't accept me as his girlfriend. I also wonder if my stress and ADHD rejection sensitivity influence my reaction. So am I the jerk for asking to come even though I wasn't invited, and then reacting so strongly to the refusal? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk, but Lily is literally the scum of the earth. Here you are just wanting to spend time with your boyfriend, and Lily says, no, you're not invited. Go get a weighted blanket if you need coping mechanisms. Like, that is such a trashy thing to say to somebody, and in my opinion, it was completely over the line. Also, what is Steven's problem? Like, seriously, your girlfriend is having a rough time. She just had one of the worst weeks she's ever had, and she is just wanting to spend time with you for like a little bit. Like, if he really cared about the original poster, he would step up and be like, wait a second, no, I want my girlfriend here. She can watch and just sit in the corner. Or even being like, hey, I'm gonna sit out this game night and come another night. Or something like that. Like, literally, he just rolled over and played dead the second Lily was like, wait a second, she can't come along. Who cares if it's a 4-person game? A 5th person can happily watch from the sidelines and enjoy themselves just as much as anyone else. Like, I've been a part of game nights before where people bring extra people for like a game that can't accommodate everybody, and no one's ever had a problem with it. Everyone has still had a good time and it all works out. So it really just baffles me that your boyfriend as well as Lily are like, no, you can't come along, sorry. Like, clearly they only cared about you not being there instead of being like, yeah, come along, this will be fun. And it doesn't seem like you've done anything to like disrupt their game nights or any of the dinners or activities that they do together as a group. So I think you might be onto something. This behavior really does seem targeted in some kind of way. So truly, based on what you described, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think Steven is absolutely at fault for not defending you or at least staying home that night. And I also think that Lily is the scum of the earth, because the way all of this went down, in my opinion, is completely unfair. Am I the jerk for asking my wife to pitch in and help pay for a house that we're trying to buy? Because right now she's saying that I should pay for it simply because I make more money. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 34-year-old male, and I'm married to the love of my life, a 33-year-old female. My wife is kind, nurturing, and motivated in her career. She does a lot for me at home since I work long hours, and we got married about 4 months ago and dated for 8 years in total. We're both easygoing and have the same sense of humor, and we rarely argue. I work in healthcare, and I make about 4 times as much money as she does, but she makes a good salary as well. Since I make that much money, I tend to pay for most things. Stuff like dinners or weekend trips or mall shopping, which I absolutely do not mind doing. With bigger purchases, we pay for things together in proportion to what we make. She is usually okay with paying her share of things, like 1/4 of the rent and the groceries, and will sometimes offer to pay for dinners and dates. Now, she is very close with her 4 best friends. Now, they are great people, but they're basically attached at the hip, and they talk daily in a group chat, which is fine. Everyone needs a support system. I mean, I myself have similar friends. Well, she and her 4 friends have a combined savings account together that they're gonna use for investing in something together. They've each been putting in a few $100s per month each. I've known about this for years, and I didn't love the idea initially, which I definitely expressed, but she was adamant that she wanted this, and at the time, we weren't hurting for the money, and it was ultimately her money and her decision. We are now looking to buy a home in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the United States, and she expresses that she doesn't have that much in terms of her own savings, but has $20,000 of her own money tied in with her friends' combined savings. Over the last year, they've been told by 2 financial advisors that 5 people attempting to invest together in real estate or stocks, or even in a business, wasn't a great idea, and they also recommended to split the funds into 5 separate accounts since the account is under one of the friends' names, and there are tax implications for having that amount of money to her name. Now, the homes that we're looking at need around a $70,000 down payment, and I stated I was willing to to spend nearly all of my savings for the down payment for the home, and that would equal to about $50,000. So I told her that she should pull that money from her joint friend's account so that she can help with a down payment. It is a huge purchase, and I don't think it should be my burden alone. Well, when I said that, she got really upset. She then told me, I don't want to touch that money. I promised my friends it would be for investing together. We should look for a less expensive home then, maybe a fixer-upper. She then said to me, it would be easier for you to accrue the money back since you make so much more. And this was really frustrating to hear. I said to her, it's unfair that I have to spend nearly all of my savings and you don't. Your friend fund is stupid, and it's stupid not to use that money for our future home. So am I the jerk for asking her to use her own cash from her friend's account and break that promise to her friend so that we can actually buy a nice home together? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk, because she's not only delusional if she thinks that money's going to be invested in anything with her friends, but also incredibly selfish to be like, you make more money than me. You can pay for it and get all that money back no problem. Like, what is going on right now? That doesn't sound smart at all. It is incredibly selfish of her to act like this is somehow your problem alone, while she herself is not taking any accountability. And also, the fact that she has a group account under someone else's name for investing in whatever, in my opinion, is a dumb idea, and that is only going to get everybody else burned. Like, there's no way I would ever agree to do that, because that is seriously so stupid. She literally has $20,000 sitting in another person's bank account, and if she really thinks she has any ownership over that money, she is literally insane. The second she would deposit her money in that account, she basically lit that money on fire and said, okay, that's no longer mine. Like, that is insanely stupid, and she threw away $20,000. So I don't think you're the jerk at all for trying to speak reason to her and saying, look, this investment thing is not going to happen, but we can definitely invest in our home and in our future. Because right now, as it stands, your wife basically doesn't have any money saved up, and that is not fair for you and your marriage in the slightest. An entitled Karen at the pool simply didn't want to wait her turn, and as a result, she literally ruins everybody's day. Here's what happened. Okay, so I witnessed this at the pool the other day. I was sitting on a bench waiting for family, and I saw this all go down. Our community pool has several lanes roped off away from the general swimming area where people can do laps if they want to. If you're waiting for a lane to open up, you wait by that side, and when someone has finished, whoever was waiting first takes the open spot. People are usually civil about it, and it's never an issue. Well, all the swimming lanes are being used, and this lady decides that she doesn't feel like waiting for a lane and just goes down the stairs into one of the lanes. She then waves her hands under the water so that the swimmer can see her. Now, this guy, to his credit, was way too nice. He comes up and she starts whining about how all the lanes are full, while also asking when he's done and how the other swimmers are taking forever. The guy then explains that he just started and the other swimmers might be done pretty soon. But no, this lady absolutely cannot wait. She complains some more, and then she says something like, oh, your lane is wider, can't you just share it? And believe it or not, the guy actually let her share it. So then they're both crammed into this lane, and she's like flailing around and splashing water everywhere. It seemed like she was trying to bother the guy just to get him out. My family came over at this point, and we went to the other side of the pool, but I did see the guy get out not long afterwards. And I hope he got another swimming lane again, because honestly, that behavior was super obnoxious. And by the way, the lanes are narrow, so only one swimmer goes at a time. I've been coming here for years, and that's how it's always been. If the lanes are full, sometimes people will swim next to them in the general swimming side of the pool. And you know what? This lady absolutely had that option. But instead, she chose to bother someone who already had a lane. Yeah, that's really obnoxious, and I've seen that myself when I've gone to like the gym or somewhere like that. You always have that one person who like cannot wait their turn at all, and they feel their schedule is way more important than literally everybody else around them. And that's not fair at all. If you're gonna go to a community pool or community anything, then maybe, just maybe, you should act like a community and not be so selfish, because it really wouldn't have taken that much for her to wait her turn. She clearly has the time set aside to be swimming at a community pool, so for her to be like, oh my god, I can't wait, get out of the pool, I'm gonna share the lane with you. Like, that's super entitled, and it honestly is so uncalled for. And I'm right there with the original poster. That guy in the lane was way too nice. He should have told her to get lost and find another lane, because this was her plan the entire time. She would try to share the lane, but then eventually make it impossible for him to swim around. So yeah, that was some really entitled behavior, and I honestly cannot stand when people act this way. Am I the jerk for leaving a surprise party that was meant to celebrate me beating a cancer that I didn't want anybody to know about? Because right now, I am very upset with my wife for telling everyone what was going on, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 35-year-old male, and I am a very private person. I have no social media, and I don't even want my wife posting photos of me. Although I don't tell her not to, I just don't ask her to post me. When it comes to celebrating celebrating Father's Day or my birthday, I don't like attention on me, and I prefer to keep things low-key whenever I can. So keeping that in mind, I was diagnosed with an extremely curable type of skin cancer. It was caught very early on, and I never felt scared for my life in any way, shape, or form. I'm an engineer and I think analytically, and I wasn't scared with a diagnosis with literally a 3% fatality rate. Even still, I told my wife, and of course, she was terrified. We talked through it, and I told her my doctor was very optimistic and said we've caught it early on. But none of it seemed to help out, but at least I tried. After a while, I told her that we shouldn't tell our kids who were 5 and 7 years old, and my wife still wanted to tell them. But I was adamant about that because I'm not even sure they would understand what we were talking about. So reluctantly, she agreed not to. About a week later, I get a call from my dad asking about my cancer. It turns out my wife posted on Facebook about my cancer that morning, so I called her and I wasn't happy that she posted my business, and her excuse was to say, well, you didn't say I couldn't post it, just not tell the kids. There is no way she would think I wanted that posted online, no matter what I said. So she took it down and time went by. Very quickly, I was in remission with my skin cancer, and my doctor told me word for word, we don't like to say you're cured, but you're cured. And I told my wife, and she was ecstatic. She told me she was worried all this time, and I definitely could tell, and was glad that we could put this all behind us. And honestly, I thought we could put all this behind us too. That is until this weekend when I'm coming home on Friday. I see a lot of cars parked on the street and some in my driveway. I couldn't think of any birthdays or anniversaries that I might have missed, but I went in anyways, and that's when I find out it was a party for my remission diagnosis. I was mortified at this. She's never done anything like this, and we've talked about how I would hate a surprise party multiple times. I asked what this was for. I said to her, I'm sorry, but I didn't know you planned this. I'm just coming home for some files and heading back to work. But you know what? It was a lie. I gathered up some meaningless files in my office, and I said thanks to everyone for coming, and I left to go back to my office, messing around on my phone until everybody left. My wife knew that I was lying, and we fought that night, and I told her I don't know what's gotten into her, but she knows I would never want this, and she doesn't get to make a big deal out of something personal I never wanted to be public in the first place. We've now been cold this entire week, and my brother said that I'm the jerk, since I told him I just pretended to go to work. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this is unbelievably intrusive, and I would be very pissed off as well. This wasn't even like a cancer worth celebrating. Like, this is literally a curable cancer that they probably fixed right away. So the fact that your wife posted this on Facebook, but also throw a party that you definitely did not want her to throw, in my opinion, is super toxic and very intrusive. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. My entitled coworker demands that I seat customers while I'm off the clock. And despite the fact that I tried to explain this to her, she simply didn't care about what I had to say and still demanded that I do my job basically for free. Here's what happened. So I came in early to work, like almost an hour early, so I could order food and eat before my shift. While I'm waiting, I'm sat at the table that shares one side of a half wall with the host stand on the other side of the wall. That means when you're sat in the booth that's against the wall, people can see you when they walk in. We have a new hire that's been doing very well, and he was hosting alone until the next host came in soon, since we'll have 2 hosts in the evening and 1 in the afternoon. As I wait, it's now 30 minutes before my shift, and I'm about to get up to check on my food when these regulars come in. A very nice but sometimes demanding couple. They saw me and just said hi, and I let them know the host will help them soon, since I don't want to sit someone off the clock and mess with the rotation. And I did this because I also host, but I was on Expo that night, and I hated anyone who wasn't hosting that shift that would mess with the rotation and just start sitting people, because it can very quickly become a disaster. The new hire is just finishing up checking out a to-go order, and he says he'll seat them in just a minute. So I got up and I went to check on my food. As I almost get to the kitchen, a server stopped me, who, by the way, very much hates me, all because I follow the rules and guidelines for doing things, and she likes to lie and manipulate so she can get more tables, as well as the best tipping tables at that. She's even done it to her friends that work here too. The server looked at me and said, "Aren't you going to sit them?" And I said to them, "No, the host is up there." And he said he's going to take care of them in just a minute. The server then looks over and says, "Oh, is he taking a phone order?" But I respond by saying, "No, he's just checking someone out. He was just finishing up when they came in." This server then catches an attitude with me. She says to me, "So, you could sit them. They are regulars. They can't just be made to wait." I responded by saying, well, they didn't have an issue with it, and they were just fine with waiting. And you know what? He's right there. My shift has not started yet. The server then looked at me and said, "Doesn't matter, you should have sat them." And I just walked away after that, and she was angry with me the rest of the shift. Is it so wrong that I don't want to work yet before my shift? I even told a coworker who also thought that I should have just done it. So I'm honestly done with his weird attitude, and I hope I don't deal with that ever again. Yeah, there's no way I'm ever gonna work for free. The original poster has it right. Like, if I'm off the clock and I'm in there eating food, guess what? Right now, I'm a customer. I am not gonna be someone that's gonna jump up and do extra work for nothing. I don't get paid nearly enough to do that, and there's no way anybody's gonna force me to do that. And you know what? If that server really was so concerned about these regulars, and they really wanted to get them a table and get them settled in, then they could have walked up and done it themselves. The second they realized that you were not clocked in, should have been the first instinct for them to be like, oh wait, I shouldn't be bothering you, sorry about that, my bad. So her selfish attitude, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate, because in my opinion, under no circumstances should anybody be working while off the clock. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.